Hello guys and girls. So if you have made it this far to this video, I really want to thank you. I'm really grateful for sticking along with me and also giving me your feedbacks on things. I'm really grateful for that. So in today's video tutorial, we will be going through functions, none, and scope in my Python series for beginners. Okay, let's get started. And so if you look at my text editor, PyCharm, a good text editor from JetBrains, uh, I really want you guys to use it, and maybe any other text editors you want to be using. So this is a brief overview of what we're going to be doing today, so you know that I'm not going to be wasting your time in this tutorial. So this is a brief overview. So after explanation and many things, I will go through a practice exercise with you guys. You can take your time and do it. So if you're good with it, you can skip to my next tutorial. Or if you're still having problem writing the code yourself, doing the practice yourself, I just hope you stick along and watch the video with me, and I can promise you that you get better day by day. So, and this is also for me, it helps me to understand what I'm going to be doing on each section, and also, make me uh refresh my memory and don't forget some of the concepts. Okay, so let's get started. At first, I explained what functions is. Functions let us group code into reusable blocks. And we define a function using the def keyword, this def keyword right here. So definition is what I see it as actually. So def keyword def. Yeah. So if you see the title of my video is like dev and something. So just wanted to give you guys an overview that we're working on functions in this tutorial. So functions can take inputs like parameters and pass them arguments. Don't worry, don't feel confused right now, and I'll still explain it briefly as we go down our comments. Okay, so functions can return values using return. If no return, if no return, then give back none. So if there's no return, it will give back none. And scope, where variables can be seen, we have local and global scope as well. So let's go through each comment, and I will walk you guys through with a very good understanding, and I'll make sure to break it down to the simplest form to make you guys understand it very well. So let's go down to defining a simple function. So let's say we have a function. I prefer using camel casing, so most of my tutorials I'll be using camel casing naming convention for them. So I'll have, so you call the def like this. So def keyword, once Python says this, it knows they are planning on giving a function. So I'll call the function called, let's say hello. Yeah, say hello. So in Python, you don't need curly braces like this. It will give you an error. Okay, you just need this. So you just need this and indentation, and yeah, cool. Don't care about this warning right here, this yellow warning right here. It's showing me this warning because I'm using camel casing for function. Most of the time you can see people using underscore like this. Let me make this yellow like this. So you can see that the yellow this thing is gone, but I don't like using underscores. I like using camel casing, but it won't give an error. It's just so you know. So the thing we'll do next is, so you see the function say hello. We have a function called say hello. What do we want the function to do? We'll say we want the function to print the function to print, let me just say hello from a function like this. So you say this is a function. You can see this is a reusable block of code. Like, you define a simple function. Now all you need to do is, you have gotten a function like this, because we're going to be working with function in most of my tutorial. So you have a function like this, a function called say hello. And what is it doing? It's printing hello from a function. So it's not returning any value. But now when you call the function like this, let's say you call the function. To call the function, all you have to do is click say hello, and I'll just zoom this a little bit, shift F. Yeah, I think this would be cool. So say hello. So if I should run the program, uh you see hello like this. You see hello from a function. So you have to call the function. So imagine that I did not call this function right here, or let me say I did not call this function, and I just run it. You see, it's just blank, but it still exists with code 0. There's no error. It shows that we have a function, but we don't use it for anything. So if I should call the function and run it, so any block of code that is in the function would be executed. Okay, so if anything, you can just print anything inside your function, but make sure that it's inside your indentation. I am Charles, and I'll print Charles in charge. Yeah, this is a movie, so Charles in charge. So if I should run this program, you can see hello from a function, I'm Charles, Charles in charge. So any set of code you put inside your function in Python, but you have to make sure that it's indented so it would run properly. Okay, so after putting any block of code, you will just call the function out to the console so it can run, or you can use it as many times as you want. Say hello, say hello, say hello, and it's like say hello. So if I should run this program, you can see lots of hello from a function, I'm Charles, Charles in charge. Hello from a function, I'm Charles, Charles in charge. And it keeps going and going and going. So it's a very good way to write your code and make it reusable without, like, if you want to write this text lots of times, it won't be cool, and it will like he beats our dry method, don't repeat yourself. So you have to make sure that you use the best practice when writing your code. Okay, so now let's move up to the next comment. So we now have function with a parameter. So function with a parameter, it's used to like ask the user for input. So most of the time when writing functions, it's just for collecting users input and putting it to the parameter. Don't get confused, I'll explain what I mean. So if I have a function, I'll call it greet user like this. So greet user, remember your parentheses. Then inside your parentheses, we'll call something. It's just like we'll call something called the parameter. So this parameter is, you put it inside your parentheses. These are brackets or parentheses called in programming. So your parentheses, we'll call it user name like this. So and then I'll indent it like this. So def greet user, then username. So this parameter now, it's expecting a value when you call the function. Okay, so if I should print something like, I want to say hello to the user, maybe I'll print something like hello, and then I'll print username like this. Now what it's saying is hello plus any name that the user pass into this input. So you can check out my other videos for inputs and stuff like that. So now if we want to call the function, if I call this function like this, now when calling the function, let's say in a single block of code, anything that is inside this that is still indented, Python assumes that it's part of the function. So if you want to leave the function like this, you have to like click backspace so you can write your code outside the function. Now to call the function, let me say I call the function greet user and I did not pass any value and I run the code, it gives an error. So you can see type error, greet user missing one required positional argument. So this is what it needs, an argument inside here to match this parameter. So that's what it say, and it's finished with exit code 1. So you can see our console is giving an error. Okay, so now if I should, what I would do is I would do user name like this. Yeah, sorry, not username. So what you have to do is input the name of the user inside this greet user. So if the name of the user is a string, let me say I'll call my name Charles like this. So now it's telling Python that yo, this parameter, I'm passing this argument into this parameter. So Charles would be what Python will use as the username. Then to now print this hello Charles. So if I run this program, you'll see hello Charles. I'll just delete this ones. No, but I'll need it for an example. So you can see this first program we ran, it just run very well smoothly because we don't have any parameter here, so we don't need to add any parameter. But once a function has a parameter inside its parentheses, you have to add a function, either a string, integer, float, or any other thing. Okay, so I'll just delete these ones for now, so we won't get confused as we move. So the next thing we're going to do, say I can create user. So if you want to play around with it, the way I used to usually do to play around, to test my understanding, and also go back to the other things we have covered, I can just do something like I'll say my user name is equals, then I'll now prompt the user input, and I'll prompt the user to enter your name like this. So now I've prompted the user outside the function to enter his or her name. Then inside the function, what am I going to do? Any name given to me by the user, I can just do pass in the name the user gave me like this, my user's name like this. So you can see the function has a parameter, so it doesn't matter the naming convention, you can just name it the same thing, but I like naming it different thing. So you can see greet user, username, and then you pass this to it. So now you can repeat this. You can, if I run this program, I'll say enter your name, any name. Let me say I say Bob or something. Let me know it's Charles. You can see hello Bob. So if I should run this program again, enter your name, and I say Charles, hello Charles. So any name the user pass into it, we'll pass it to our function as arguments like this. Any name the user enters, we'll pass it to our function. Then Python goes back and reads this and prints out the name the user passed in. Okay, I hope you understand it. And I know it's a lot to take in as a beginner, but I just hope this would make you understand it a little bit. So play around with it and see what you can cover up with it. Okay, so the next one we're going to be moving on to is the return function. So I'll just clear this off so it won't confuse us in our console. So the return function. So there is function, as I said earlier in my description, I said that functions also return values. Okay, so if I should go now and I have a definite, I'll call a function, you have to remember your def keyword. And I say I want to add, let's say, two numbers. I'll say let me call a function that add numbers, so it won't be like every time I want to add a number I'll say print I'll say print 1 plus 1, something like this. I'll be always adding the sign or something. So if you want to make it more easier, let me call a function that I can also use, and it will return a value like this. For instance, let me show you. So if you want, let's call our def keyword, then I'll call it add numbers like this. It's the name of our function. So the name of our function is add numbers. Remember, I like using camel casing, so don't worry about the yellow warning or yellow, there's warning. So you remember your parentheses and your semicolon right here. So add numbers. So which number, how many numbers do you want to add? So I want to add two numbers. I will say num 1 and comma, then number 2. So we have done about parameters. So this now it's going to be receiving two parameters, and it would be an integer, because if we watch this, you see num1 and num2, so it's receiving two parameters. So if I should then to work with the return value, so we can just say if we want to return like the sum of the numbers, we can do like sum. We can call it a variable called sum, and we'll now say sum is equals, sorry, then we'll call the parameters num1 plus num2 like this. Then still inside the function, we will use the return keyword. What do you think we should return? We will return the sum like this. So now we are returning the sum. After calling the function add numbers, we pass in two parameters. Then we now call another normal variable called sum. Then we add the two variables together. Now we're returning the sum. So this is a long way to do it though, but it still pass the point across. So I want to break it down step by step on ways you can do it. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do now, outside our function, you can see where my indentation is. Don't make sure it's not like inside. Well, if you're using PyCharm, once it sees the return keyword, it just automatically pushes you outside, because return is the end of a function. You cannot write any other code after your return statement. So keep note on that. You can't write any other code after your return statement. So the next thing, let's say I now have let's say we want to print the results of our number. We have number, a large amount of number we want to add. Let's now call it, we'll call a variable named results. Let me just call it result is equals. So result is equals to, we'll now call the add numbers function. So the add numbers function is expecting two arguments because it has two parameters, so it's expecting two arguments. So what we are going to do, which numbers do we want to add? Let's say we want to add 1575. Why I'm using a big number, so you can say, because some of you might say, why are we using 2 and 3 when everybody knows it's 5? Why are we using 2 plus 1 when everybody knows it's 3? So I'm using a big number so you guys will see the importance. So then plus 1708 this like this. So you can see this one, you can see our text editor is also telling us that this is num1 and this is num2. So now we have called the function, and remember in our print statement, since the first section of code we did, we are not returning any value, so we did not assign it to anything. But now, since we are returning a value, we need to assign it to a variable. Or there's another short way I'll show you guys, but after this long and step by step way, I'll show you guys the shorter way to do this, the returning values and functions. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to print something to the console. So I'll just print something simple. I'll say result is, then I'll now print results. Sorry, not this, results. So I'll now print the results. So you can see, so if I run this program, Shift F10, basically results is, it just adds it for us like this. So it just adds it up for us. Result is this. So I'll use something simple so you guys will see that it's giving the proper addition. So 15 plus, let me say 15 plus 5, and if I should run this, it gives 20. The result is 20. So with the next thing I'm going to be doing, okay, I don't need this space here. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is a very short way to still derive the same answer. So now inside our function, let's break our function down. So we don't want to like pass in arguments. We don't want to pass, sorry, we don't want to like name variables. It will make it, it's cool actually, but we can still make it shorter. So we find a very good way to break down your code so you won't like write much code. So the thing we're going to do is we're going to return, we're going to return this. So we're going to return these two parameters, num1 plus num2. Okay, so now what we're going to do, and this one we're not going to like say, we can also do it like this. We want to give it like result or something. So I'll just copy this thing and I'll say add numbers, Control C, and I'll just print it like this. Print it like this. So you don't need to like assign it to a variable. It's just to make your code look neat. So you can just print something like this, and I will just like this. Okay, so if I should run this program, Shift F10, you see it still gives 20 as the result right here in our console, 20. So there's many ways you can do and play around with it. Okay, so now we now have another. Now I just hope that you understand the return values, and you can use it and you can play around with it. You can use multiplication, you can use modulus, you can use if and else statement as well. If this, return this, if this, then return this. So it's very cool. So we play around with it and see what you can understand before you can move to my practice exercise. Okay, so the next comment we are going to have, the next comment we're going to be doing is I'll remove this, is the non-example. So I said we're going to explain the non-example values, functions that can return none. So I'll call it function and I'll call it do nothing like this, so it will be clear. So if I should put this and I will now say pass, something like pass. So if I should call this function like this, wait, hold on. Firstly, let's call this function like do nothing, like a normal function without return value, and run the program. Let's see what happens. So nothing happens because we're not printing anything and we're not returning anything. Then let's imagine that we are supposed to return something. So if I should print this thing like this, print this thing and this function, nothing, then function and run it, you can see it gives us none. What it means is that it doesn't have a return value, and not even only pass. Let's say I have something like print do nothing, and I'll print do nothing like this. So you can see Shift escape, I'll remove this. So you can see I have a function called do nothing, and it's the thing it's doing is just printing do nothing. Okay, so what do you think if I run this program? What will be the output of this program if I run it? Okay, so now let me run it. So you see, if I run this program, you see it says do nothing. So it still calls the function like this do nothing. Yeah, text, but it still returns value of none because it don't have any return statement. It doesn't have any return statement. So as long as your function does not have a return statement and you're trying to print out the function like this down here, you're trying to print out this function like this, it will return none. But if it has a return statement like this one that we did earlier and you're trying to print it out, then it returns a very good valuable answer. So that's an example of the none, that an example of a thing that you can know with none. Okay, so that is it. So I hope you understand it. So we are moving to the next comment that we're going to be working on. So the next comment would be, I'll just clear this so there will be enough space for us to work with. So the next comment is scope, local versus global variables. So example, let's say we have a user number. I'll call it user number like this, and I'll just call it 10. So you can see 10, it's not inside the function, so it's global. Like it's just like it's global, so you can access it from anywhere. But let's say we have a function called, I'll just call it def change user number. So let's try to change this user's number. So I'll now put this and semicolon. I will not pass any parameter inside this our parentheses. I'll not pass any parameter here. So we'll just go down right here, and then I'll now call another thing called, I'll call user number again, and I'll try to change it equals 5. Okay, so inside our function I have user number equals 5 like this. Then if I should print this, let me just, so it would be clear, I'll print inside a caps lock inside function like this. Then inside function I'll print comma user number like this. So inside function, so we are trying to change it. So you see what I'm going to, don't be scared, just pay attention, and I'll show you what I'm trying to do. So the next thing, I'll now call the function out. I'll call the function outside here, outside our function. I'll call change user number function. I'll just give space here so you can understand it more better. So change user number, so I'm calling out the function, and then I'll print also, let's print x, let's print user number. So let's see what happens now. So you can see we have user number, this one right here, it's 10. So it's called global variable because it's not in a function and it's up, like it's on top of the function like this. It did not come after, it comes before the function. So you can see user number is 10. So inside our function we have user number equals 5. So if I should run this program, what do you think would be our output? So let me run it. So what you can see, inside function is equals 5, and the main function user number is 10. So you can't change a user number, like you can't change this value with a function inside here. So this one is local and this one is global. Another way to explain it is if I should clear this function and say print user number. So to show you that this one is local, it's just like, unless we call the function, is only when it will run. So Python will ignore it and just go for this user number. So if I should run it, you'll see user number it's 10. So it still prints out 10 for us out in the console right here. So the next 10, that's just what you basically need to know about it. So the same thing is goes for our updates. This last slide, this last comments right here. So I'll just copy this code, Control C, and I'll clear it off so we have enough space. Okay, and then the next thing I'll do is paste it here. So now you can see the same thing we did lastly. So user number equals 10, then change user number. You see if we print user number, it still gives us 10 when we are trying to change user number using this function. So there's a way you can change the user's number like this. Hold on. So if I should, what's all you just have to do is global. You call it global method. I don't know, like a global module. It's inbuilt. So you call global, then you call it user number. So global user number, it means that now you're trying to access this user number that is outside here, and you're trying to change it. So if you should run this program, you can see, wait, what's the problem? And it's meant to change. Okay, wait, hold on. Let me call. We have to call our function here. Yeah, cool. So if we should run this program, so you can see inside from, okay, I will not need to print anything. Let me just remove this thing. Yeah, like this. Then if I should run it, you just see now the thing is changed 5 to 5. So if you are printing the user's number, because you have to call the function, then you print user number, you can see that it's changed to 5. But if you remove this global module that we used up here and run this function, the user's number will be 10. It means that it did not change it successfully. So if you want to change the user's number, you just add your global user, your global, then you call the thing you are trying to change like this and run it. So you see change successfully. You can change the variable name to anything. You can use like x, but it's not descriptive. You can use x equals 10, then you use this global x and this as well. Then you use x like this and print x. So if I should run this program, it still gives us 5 because we use the global x and we're trying to change x from 10 to 5. So use the global, call the function and print it. So that's basically what we need to do and we need to know in function. And now moving on to our practice exercise, I'll give you guys time to do the practice exercise, then work on it together, okay? Yeah, I hope you did something, and yeah, and I hope you did something. And remember, we are not going to be getting the same way. I'm not going to, maybe your way might be different from the way I'm using to derive the results, but it's still works anyway, still works as long as we meet the requirements. So let's work on this practice exercise together. Okay, first, what is the requirement? So write a function that takes two numbers. So when writing code, make sure you write the code step by step so you won't get confused or you won't overload yourself with lots of code and get confused at the end. So I'll call a function called def, called def keyword. So they say that takes two arguments. So what do we want to name our function? Add them. So you see, it say we should add them. So we'll call it add numbers like this. So add numbers. Then they say it takes two numbers. So we'll call it number 1 and number 2. So it takes two numbers as parameters. Okay. So next thing, add them and return the sum. Okay, if the sum is greater than 10, print big number, else print small number. So we'll put our semicolon right here. So they now said we should return the sum, right? So we'll call it a variable called sum total is equals, so we'll call number 1 plus number 2 like this. So now we have added together, but we can just return it. But you can see we have an if and else statement to verify before we return anything. So we now say inside the function, we now say if the sum total is greater than 10, what should we do? We should print. I hope you know how to work with the if and else statement. If not, please, I advise you to watch my videos on if and elif and else statements. I think it's my fourth video or something, but just watch it and so we can move on. So the next thing is print. If it's greater than 10, you print big number like this. Okay, so then what else print small number. So now outside else we now print small number like this. Okay, so the next thing they now say, what should we do? We should return, let's return the sum total like this. So you can see this is our function. We called the function add numbers, and we passed two parameters to it, number one and number two. So we have the sum total, and we calculated the total of the two numbers, and we saved it into a variable called sum total. Then we use our if and else statement as required by the practice. If the sum total is greater than 10, you print big number, else you print small number. Then now we're returning the sum total. So outside the function, what should we do? And guess we'll have to call a result. So the final result, I'll just call it final result is equals, so I'll call the add numbers function and pass in two arguments, and the arguments would be, let me say I need 50 and 30. Yeah, if you want to like make it more cool, and maybe you can ask the user for two numbers and you pass the two numbers the user gave as arguments. Like you can say enter a number, you say user's first number equals enter a number, you convert it to an integer. Then user second number equals enter a second number, you convert it to an integer. Then pass the user's first number and user's second number inside this as arguments. So, but for now, I want to make this video brief, so I won't be making much functionality. So now we have passed these two numbers as the argument in this our add numbers function. Then what we are going to do now is print. Let's print something. So we'll just to make it more cool, I'll say value return value outside it, and I'll say final result like this. So if I should run this program, you'll see big number, so return value is 80. You can see it, okay? So return value is 80. So what are we going to do? So it's a big number, so let me remove the 0 and run it. So it's a small number, return value is 8. So you can see, because if our sum total is greater than 10, it's a big number, else it's a small number. That's why since the return value is not greater than 10, it's a small number, yeah. So that's a wrap for today's tutorial, and if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. And remember, your feedback is, I need your feedback to make more cool videos and make improvements in my videos. And see you all in the next tutorial.